Good day, everybody. And welcome to the Bible in the year 2021, day 37, as we go into Exodus 22 to 24. Just a heads up for the next little while, we're going to go into stuff with a lot of detail. So the reading might seem a little heavy, um, but it will end, just to encourage you. So, picking up in Exodus chapter 22, looking at verses 2 to 4. I'm just going to highlight some stuff here because we just do not have time to touch on everything that is exposed here. But what I want you to do is, as you go through this, as you read the scripture yourself, you should take note of the things that you learn about God, things that are revealed about Yahweh in the case laws that He's giving. His compassion, His mercy, grace, His sense of justice, all that sort of stuff. So just an example, just to highlight an example here of how important justice is to Yahweh and what justice looks like. If the thief is caught breaking in and is beaten and dies, the one who killed him won't be guilty of bloodshed. However, if this happens in broad daylight, then the one who killed him is guilty of bloodshed. See the difference there? For his part, the thief must make good on what he stole. If he has nothing, he must be sold to pay for his theft. If an animal, whether ox, donkey, or sheep, is found alive in the thief's possession, he must pay back double. So this is the sense of justice where um, things are within reason. And remember, this is because of where they are and what they can receive. And this is really the law and the case laws revealing the heart of Yahweh. In Exodus 22:6, where throughout the whole thing, we're seeing accountability and compensation. You're held accountable for your actions towards somebody, for your morality. You're held accountable for those actions. And if you do something against somebody, then you're expected to compensate them. So when someone starts a fire and it catches in thorns and then spreads to someone else's stacked grain, so obviously this is a mistake, an error that happens. Standing grain or a whole field, the one who started the fire must fully repay the loss. So it's not just about guilty with intentional, with malcontent, with maliciousness, but it's also where honest mistakes are made. Just because you've made a mistake doesn't mean that you don't need to make up for that, to pay some sort of compensation for it. Um, Now look at this. When any in verse 9, when any dispute of ownership over an ox, donkey, sheep, piece of clothing, or any other loss arises in which someone claims this is mine, the cases of both parties should come before who? Before God. Why before God? Because um, the judge has no way of knowing. Moses had no way of knowing, or any of the ones that he assigned to be a judge under him have no way of knowing, no way of distinguishing between two parties when there's no proof. So the only one who knows the heart, the only one who knows everything is Yahweh. And in here they refer to him as the creator, should come before the creator. The one whom the creator finds at fault must pay double to the other. So that's a good thing to try to settle out of court. Try to deal with this thing out of court, because if you're the guilty party, if you're the one who's is trying to pull one over, and Yahweh reveals that you're doing this, then you're really going to be out of pocket because you're going to have to pay double. Accessing the spiritual realm, other than through um, the way that is open, the way that what Yahweh is making available to them is illegal. And we see this in a number of different incidences. We'll look at it, especially when we come to Balaam, his access to Yahweh, which was illegal. So in Exodus 22:18, it's simply don't allow a female sorcerer to live. They're doing something illegal. And this was a really, they're going over the wall instead of through the gate, and so they were being like a thief. But they were stealing They were stealing from Yahweh. So here we here we have to take note of something. Okay, this is really important. This is extremely important for us to this day. This is important. Exodus 22:21 to 24. Don't mistreat or oppress an immigrant because you were once immigrants in the land of Egypt. Don't treat any widow or orphan badly. If you do treat them badly and they cry out to me, you can be sure that I'll hear their cry. I'll be furious and I'll kill you with the sword. Then your wives will be widows and your children will be orphans. All the way through scripture, all the way through, including with Jesus. The emphasis is there on the strong taking care of the weak, the rich looking after the poor, those who have helping those who do not. There's supposed to be an equality that happens to help people get up to a common level together. It's so important. Um, and it's going to be repeated and repeated and repeated. So this is really the first set that we're dealing with. So hearing just these few things, you can understand how upset Yahweh is with the condition of the world at that time, with everything that he sees going on around. And he's saying with Israel, no, no, you're going to be the example. You're going to show how this needs to be done. You're going to show how humanity is supposed to be living together. You're going to show this as my people. You're going to show this. And then again here, look, just justice towards the poor. Absolutely. This is what we should be fighting for. We march on the street for our rights. But are we marching on the streets for the rights of those who don't have enough, for the homeless? And I know there's all kinds of different reasons for homelessness, but for those who are there because they get evicted because things, their job fell through. There's all kinds of reasons why people need help, people need protection, people need to be fought for. Are we marching in the streets for them? Look at this in verses 25 to 27. If you lend money to my people who are poor among you, don't be a creditor and charge them interest. If you take a piece of clothing from someone as a security deposit, you should return it before the sun goes down. His clothing may well be his only blanket to cover himself. What else will that person have to sleep in? And if he cries out to me, I'll listen because I'm compassionate. Man, are you writing this down? Are you writing this down? These things. He's compassionate. Do you understand? He's compassionate. He's a God of justice. He has a tender spot for those who are marginalized, those who are kicked to the curb, those who don't have any means of helping themselves. And here we're reminded that there's a purpose for the law. There's a purpose, and it's the instruction on holy living. You are holy people to me, is what he says. You are holy people, set aside for my purpose. You are holy. You don't live like the world lives. You don't live according to those standards. You live according to my principles. You live according to my principles is what is being said here in the instructions that are being given. So then over to Exodus 23 in verse 5, we see that prejudice is no reason not to do what is right. Not to walk in righteousness. And you need to understand that I know that the sacrifices are all there and animals are being killed and all that sort of stuff. And it's hard for us to understand where we're living now. But Yahweh had a special, a very special relationship with, or he has a very special relationship with his creation. And look at this. When you see a donkey, okay, now remember that the subject here is donkey. When you see a donkey, that's the subject, that belongs to someone who hates you, and it's lying down under its load, and you are inclined not to help set it free. Why? Because that person doesn't like you. That person hates you, probably says all kinds of mean things to you, may have done something wrong to you. When you're inclined not to help set it free, you must help set it free. Why? Because the subject is the donkey. It's not about the person who hates you, it's about the donkey. Look after the donkey, take care of the donkey. That's what matters to Yahweh right here. Don't let prejudice stop you from doing what is right and what is important. We see that in the definition of who's my neighbor. It was a Samaritan and a Jew, right? And they hate each other. And yet the Samaritan did what was right. It's here. Understand that. So verses 6 to 8, again, just highlighting this, Yahweh just hates injustice. He hates it. He says, don't undermine the justice that your poor deserve in their lawsuits. Stay away from making a false charge. Don't put an innocent person who is in the right to death, because I will not consider innocent those who do such evil. Don't take a bribe, because a bribe blinds the clear-sighted and subverts the cause of those who are in the right. Man, don't undermine justice here. Don't do it. Don't do it. Do what's right. And I'm just pointing this out. I know I'm skipping over all kinds of incredible, wonderful stuff, but I'm going to have to trust you to go through those yourself. But here, I just want to highlight this because it's important for a lot of us to understand this, because we don't. And I know we say we do. I know we say it in word, but in our action, we're showing that we don't understand this. Exodus 23:12. Rest is important for all creation. Do your work in 6 days, but on the seventh day you should rest, so that your ox and donkey may rest, and even the child of your female slave and the immigrant may be refreshed. And we know with the agriculture, he goes on and he explains the seventh year of rest. And this is all important, because all of creation needs that break. All of creation, all of us need that rest. We're supposed to work 6 days, and the seventh day we're supposed to, and we treat the Sabbath as if going to church is our day of rest. It's not. I mean, we choose to worship. We choose to worship. And now some people say, well, it has to be the seventh day, and we know the seventh day is Saturday. Contrary to what some people think, Sunday is the first day of the week. But it's not about the day. It's about having a day. And so, like, we choose to worship on our day of rest. Yahweh said that's a good day. That's a preferred day for you to do it, because your mind isn't occupied with everything else. But what we tend to do is we go to church and then we go off to do work. We go to church and we go home and we prepare for the week. We go to church and then we have meetings all that afternoon and evening and that sort of stuff. And I've been really trying on the Sunday after church not to do anything else. To actually do stuff that refreshes me, such as just playing games, being with the kids, going for walks, just relaxing, reading a book, just trying not to do any chores, trying not to do anything taxing, but just have that break. And I'm telling you, it's so important. It's so important that we have that day of refreshing. We were designed for it. You were designed for it. He's telling us this not to be religious about it, but because we're designed for it. We need it. We need our batteries recharged. So Exodus 23, 25 to 28. Look at this. Look at the promises that are given for their faithfulness. If you worship the Lord your God, if you worship Yahweh your God, Yahweh will bless your bread and your water. I'll take sickness away from you, and no woman will miscarry or be infertile in your land. I'll let you live a full, long life. My terrifying reputation will precede you, and I'll throw all the people that you meet into a panic. I'll make all your enemies turn their backs to you. I'll send insect swarms in front of you and drive out the Hivites, the Canaanites, and the Hittites before you. What does he say? If you worship Yahweh, your God. These are all the promises. All the promises in this relationship. He just asks them to be faithful, and all these promises will flow out for them. So, who do you think he is? Yeah. Just write it down. Exodus 23:30. Here's the plan. I'll drive them out before you little by little. Little by little. It wasn't supposed to be done in one night. Little by little until your numbers grow and you eventually possess the land. And he tells them why. He says, if I drive them out and there's not enough of you to fill the land, you can't manage the land, and it will be filled with wild animals. It will go wild. This beautifully cultivated land will grow wild. I remember that's the charge that was given, that we were to cultivate the land. And yeah, so this is the whole thing. I'll do it little by little, so the wilderness doesn't take it over. We know what happened to this. Look at this. Exodus 23:32-33. Don't make any covenants with them or their gods. Don't allow them to live in your land, or else they will lead you to sin against me. If you worship their gods, it will become a dangerous trap for you. And what happened? They let them live. They didn't wipe them all out. And they ended up worshiping those gods. And it was terrible for Israel. Terrible. Just as he forewarned them. Verse 3 of 24. Exodus 24. Moses came and told the people all the Lord's words and all the case laws. All the people answered in unison, everything that the Lord has said, we will do. Remember, they said that before they knew the details, but now they know the details. And they repeat it again. I just wanted to point that out. And this is gory. This is just horrible. Moses then took the blood and threw it over the people. Moses said, this is the blood of the covenant that the Lord now makes with you on the basis of all these words. And the covenants were always sealed by blood. Always sealed. Isn't it great that we don't seal them with blood anymore? Think of a marriage ceremony, which is a covenant, and the bride and groom having to be doused in blood to seal that covenant. No thanks. Chapter 24, 9-11. This is amazing stuff right here. This is really amazing. We have so much more than they ever had, but we haven't had this experience. Look at this. Then Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 elders of Israel went up, and they saw Israel's God. They saw Yahweh. Under the Creator's feet, there was what looked like a floor of lapis lazuli tiles, dazzlingly pure like the sky. God, the Creator, didn't harm the Israelite leaders, though they looked at the Creator and they ate and drank. They got to break bread with Yahweh. Man, they got to break bread with him. Amazing stuff. We have so much more than they had, but yeah, there you go. And just to end it off, Exodus 24:16 and 18. There's no rushing Yahweh. He calls them up to this meeting, and look what happens. This is Moses and Joshua that's there. The Lord's glorious presence settled on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. Okay, for 6 days, it covered it. Nobody did anything. They just sat there for 6 days, waiting on the Lord, waiting on Yahweh. On the 7th day, Yahweh called to Moses from the cloud. Moses entered the cloud and went up the mountain. Moses stayed on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. Some people take that as a literal 40 days and 40 nights. Other people understand that to be the biblical term for a very, very, very long time. So there you have it. Um, yeah, and we think sometimes when we don't have an answer to prayer by the end of the day, it's an eternity. But this is a good understanding. We wait on the Lord. He doesn't wait on us. We wait on Him, and it's according to His plans and His timing. There was a reason why it took 6 days, and on the seventh day He calls up Moses, and there's a reason why Moses was there for a very, very, very long time. Okay, so there you have it. It's a lot. It's a lot of detail, but please don't give up because of the detail. Just press on, and write down your thoughts. Write down your perceptions. Write down what you're discovering about who God is, according to these case laws and details and everything else that He's given that indicate what's important to Him. So you guys be blessed, be encouraged. God is good. He's good all the time. He's occupied with you. He loves you. Don't let him go. Love you guys. Thanks for being on this journey.